So this is known to be true. I'm not making this up. What we know is that Stonehenge was used to identify solstices and when the moon and the sun were traveling and what would happen, because during certain planetary alignments, certain times of the year, these zones on the Earth became much more energetically active. Are these ancient structures connected? The answer is yes, through the science of ley lines. This was done by Sir Alfred Watkins, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. He found in the 1920s that ancient holy sites lined up in straight lines, which he called leys. Sites from extremely different ages, millennia apart, were all aligned with one another. This includes the Neolithic Age, which is Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and the Christian era. Now, he would use this camera to basically be able to look across long distances and see if things were in a straight line. Now, what you see here is the summary of a massive amount of research that he did. What you see here is every single one of these words is a different ancient sacred site. Nobody ever comes out in the open and says, oh, by the way, all these sacred sites are built in a straight line. It took a guy like Alfred Watkins to analyze this and discover it for himself. But guess what a lot of these things are? They're cathedrals. Do you think that maybe the Knight Templars knew that there was something going on? Do you think that maybe they knew to build on that line and not to build off the line? Do you think that maybe if you build a church, which acts as a funnel for this consciousness energy, that if you build that domed roof for the church out of stone over that line, that it's going to harness more of this energy field from the universe, and that in so doing, it's going to become a resonator so that when you go to church, you're going to be experiencing a revelation, a higher consciousness? Do you think that maybe the stained glass window and the Gregorian chant music are creating harmonics that help you harmonize with the field? Absolutely. So here's some people from his Stonehenge club, the straight track club as it was called, the ley line hunters. Here's a barrow that had trees growing around it. Here's a similar ring of trees without a barrow. This is a natural earth effect caused by these energy fields because they do have circular formations. Well, it is a hyperdimensional effect. These are harnessing hyperdimensional energy because the hyperdimensional energy is what makes the matter that is building the stones. Let me say that again. The matter that makes these stones, the stone itself, the actual hard stuff, is built from hyperdimensional energy, energy from the time field that's flowing into our space-time. That's what, according to Dr. Dewey Larson, all matter is built from, is this hyperdimensional exchange between three-dimensional time, three-dimensional space. That's all it is. So, of course, you're going to get time anomalies, but it's also the energy that builds you. It builds your DNA, it builds your body, so when you get more of it flowing through you, you're going to have more health and vitality. And because it's the energy of your consciousness, because it is consciousness, it's also going to give you a more advanced intellect. So the way that we can actually prove that this global grid, these energy lines, has a hyperdimensional effect that can completely pull you out of our three space of length, width, and height, the three-dimensional world, is with the research of Ivan Sanderson. He investigated a massive number of different disappearances of ships and airplanes. What he did is he took everything from every single ancient, everything from the dawn of aviation, going all the way back to the first airplanes and even before that for the marine records. He looked for every case of disappearance since planes were discovered. And he found that the majority of what he was finding all clustered around 12 points on the Earth's surface. That's completely unprecedented. That's not mainstream information. It was done in the 1960s. This guy should have been treated with as much respect as somebody like Edison or Einstein or Alexander Graham Bell or the Wright brothers, because this is a huge discovery. 12 key points around the world in which planes and ships are spontaneously disappearing. He wasn't looking, he didn't have anything in mind when he started doing this. All he did is he looked up each one and he gave it a push pin, push pin, push pin. And where were all the push pins at the end? They were in 12 places. Even stranger is that the 12 places are not just haphazardly scattered around the Earth, they're all equally distant from each other. They're harmonically balanced with one another. They're all the same distance apart when you look to the ones that are adjacent to each other. If you connect the dots, you get a sacred geometry, which happens to be the same geometry that's in the polio virus, The same geometry that's in many other viruses at the quantum level, including HIV. But it's not just a negative, toxic thing like viruses. It's a very positive thing that's the fundamental building block of physical matter and biology and life. It's an icosahedron. Now, here we go. This is the Bermuda Triangle. Obviously, you know about this one. Believe me when I tell you that there are many, many airplane disappearances that cannot be explained, where they've never found oil slick or flotsam on the surface of the water. All they find is a missing plane. It's on the radar 1 minute, it's gone the next. There's no oil slick, there's no wreckage, nothing. And they don't find anything on the surface, on the bottom of the ocean floor either. It's gone. What happened is it's passing through a portal. It's passing through a time gate, a gate into another frequency of reality, a parallel universe in which time is three-dimensional. Here are the 12 points that he discovered with his pushpins. Take a close look. You see the Bermuda Triangle off the coast of Florida. You see another one near Brazil in South America. You see another one here on the land in Africa, another one down here by Sri Lanka. You see one that's the Himalayan mountains, all that crazy stuff like the Master and Teachings of the Far East, Tibet, all that stuff up there. You got some that are out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean here, which is a real lonely area to get stuck in. The Easter Island is down here. And then you got one here, which is the Devil's Triangle. That's officially been declared a disaster area by the Japanese government. They do not allow you to fly or sail through this area. You also have two bracketing Australia, and that's very important. Australia, if you notice, is the only continent that is completely pinned between actually four. Because what he doesn't show you on this map is that there's one down here on the South Pole, one up here on the North Pole. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Australia is perfectly in the geometric center of four of the most important nodes. So there's a lot of crazy stuff, and the exact geometric center of the nodes happens to be right where Pine Gap is, which is one of the biggest bases where all this stuff is being done. You connect the dots together, you get your icosahedron, which as you see here on the left is a geometry. This is what it looks like superimposed over the Earth's surface on the right. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting. These three Russian scientists, and everybody laughs when I say their name, Goncharov, Morozov, and Makarov. Well, see, you're not laughing because I told you it's not cool to laugh. So, like, now you don't want to laugh. What they did is they went through and they looked at every single line that was discovered by Sir Alfred Watkins. Remember the guy that did the ley lines? We were just talking about that, how all these churches and all these Neolithic sites and Iron Age sites and Bronze Age sites, they're all in straight lines. Well, these Russian dudes took every single one of those things that Alfred Watkins discovered, and they took every single other structure they could find around the world, the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Easter Island, temples and pagodas in Asia, China, Japan. They looked at every single weird monolithic, which means big stone structure they could find anywhere in the world. And they found that every single one of them fit onto a single grid, which was very simple to construct. All you had to do is start with the same 12 points that Ivan Sanderson found where these matter time-space warps would happen. Take those 12 points, connect the dots, just like I did. That's the icosahedron. But then, the icosahedron has a curious property. It's a geometry that, because it is perfect, can be inverted. It's a mathematical thing you can do where you flip the geometry inside out, literally. That's what it would be. If you had the structure, like made out of wires, you could actually flip it inside out and rebuild it, but build it backwards. Build the geometric inverse of it. All you got to do is inverse the icosahedron and make it so that it fits together with the original icosahedron, and you get this grid. Here it is. So I want to point out to you again, because this is a little bit confusing if you don't know what you're looking at, that all of your original points are still there. Here's, the Bermuda Triangle. Here's the one on the southern tip. Here's the two that I was talking about around Australia, the one that's up there. Here's the one at the South Pole. So they're all still there. But now you've added in the geometric opposite. If you simply build this geometry, you now have a diagram that shows you where every single ancient site in the entire world has been constructed on, over 4,000. They couldn't find a single one that was anything impressive that wasn't built on this grid. Why do you think that is? If you have a wire that's going to go to something that powers an electrical appliance, are you going to put the wire under your armpit and expect that it's going to work? No. You plug it into the wall. If you build a pyramid and you don't build it on this grid, do you think that it's going to work? Not anywhere near as good. You got to build it where the energy is. That's why with these cold fusion guys, they're looking at the cold fusion reactions. They build devices that actually work in some places, but then they bring it somewhere else that doesn't work anymore. It's on 60 Minutes. They've talked about this. Oh, we don't understand. It must not work. It must, and then the scientists say, well, the whole technology is wrong. No. It's because if you're on the grid, it's going to work. It's very simple. Let's put all of the cold fusion devices on the grid where they work, and then we'll wire them up and we're done. Just build it where it needs to go.